The name Hindenburg is one that has a significant air of notoriety to it. Unless you slept through your high school history classes, the chances are that you know about the LZ-129 Hindenburg and its terrifying death burn at that fateful mooring mast in New Jersey on May 6, 1937. But if you don't know about the details of the explosion and subsequent fireball, or the various theories about how the accident happened, you probably associate that name with hydrogen. And if you've been skeptical of hydrogen fuel cell vehicles and hydrogen fuel cell technology, you might have even used the Hindenburg at least once as an example to friends, family, or a co-worker as to why you think that hydrogen is not the fuel of the future. If you're following the world of cleaner, greener, safer, and smarter vehicles, you might also know that Hindenburg is about to get a new association through Hindenburg Research, namely a firm that ultimately might be the downfall of hydrogen fuel cell electric and battery electric truck startup company Nikola Motor. History, it seems, is keen to point out that it has a sense of humour. Before we get too into the weeds, let's just bring you up to speed on what's been happening in the past week, because while we've all been trying to keep everyone safe from the fast-moving fires affecting the US's west coast, which is where most of us happen to be based, the speed at which this Nikola story has developed is truly astounding. There is also a fair amount of detail to take into consideration that we need to be cognizant of if we're going to cover this as fairly as possible. So I'm going to do my best to try and provide all necessary, pertinent information. And of course, in order to do that, let's look at who and what Nikola Motor, or rather Nikola Corporation as it is now known, is. As a reminder, we are reporting allegations and rebuttals. We're not doing our own investigative reporting on this particular story. Nikola does have a history of litigation, and frankly, I like this channel and my work. So if you have an issue with my reporting, go to the sources I'm going to cite. For those who don't know, Nikola Motor is a startup based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. It was founded in 2014 by its executive chairman and 25% shareholder Trevor Milton. Trevor, who has enjoyed quite the business career, which I will come to later. In 2016, just 2 years after the company's founding, it held a small event at which it debuted a Class 8 tractor unit called the Nikola One. At the time, Nikola said it wanted the Nikola One to be put into production in 2020, and having shared what appeared to be pretty impressive specifications, it received some significant pre-reservations from large trucking firms and even companies like Anheuser-Busch that owns and operates its own fleet of delivery vehicles. Shortly afterwards, Nikola claimed it had received 7,000 orders worth $2.3 billion, which then rose to nearly $8 billion worth of reservations over the next 2 years. In 2018, shortly after Tesla revealed its Semi, Nikola announced it would be giving back all reservation deposits to customers for the Nikola One. Then it fired up its legal team and took Tesla to court. The reason? Nikola alleged that the Tesla Semi was infringing on its patents that Nikola had over specific vehicle design elements. That court case, by the way, is still ongoing. Nikola's planned original production schedule for the Nikola One came and went, and in 2019, Nikola secured just shy of 400 acres in Arizona to build a production facility for its trucks. It also held its first ever exhibition in Scottsdale, Arizona, just down the road, the next month to showcase its Nikola 2 truck, its Nikola Tre truck, and a slew of other vehicles it said it would bring to market. Both myself and Erin attended that event, and while we didn't get a chance to ride or drive the Nikola 1, Nikola 2 or Nikola Tre, the latter was clearly just a non-functional design mock-up, we did see the Nikola 2 being driven around a closed circuit at slow speeds with a trailer in tow. Now, I don't know if that trailer was full or how the vehicle was fueled, but based on the lack of engine noise, I can assume it was at least powered by some form of electrified drivetrain. I did, however, get a very short ride in an all-electric off-road prototype version of the NZT off-road vehicle that had been unveiled at the same event. Unlike the one on stage, which I'm going to assume was a design prototype rather than a functional vehicle for reasons that will become apparent later, the one I rode in had doors, but none of the air conditioning or other features that the on-stage vehicle promised. It was certainly quick, but it wasn't ready for market. As to functional vehicles driving down the road, Well, this is where it gets interesting. So let's turn our attention to Hindenburg Research, or Hindenburg Investment Research, as it's listed on the Seeking Alpha website, which it sometimes contributes to. It was founded by Nate Anderson, a chartered financial analyst and a chartered alternative investment analyst. It's been investigating publicly traded companies since 2016, and I've got to say that of the companies it's produced in-depth reports on, a sizable percentage have either become the subject of an SEC investigation, SEC action, and sometimes even delistings. Hindenburg Research has been referred to in some media this week as a short seller, which implies that it does have a financial interest in making stock perform badly in order to reap the benefits from betting against the stock's value. Short selling is a common practice. It's often bemoaned by Elon Musk. But I'm not reporting this to discredit the report I'm going to cover, because a lot of what is alleged seems to be borne out by evidence. Having said that, were this a video about Tesla, I know most watching would expect me to note if there were any potential conflicts of interests. And as a reminder, nobody working on this video on this channel has any financial stake in any company or its rivals that we cover on this channel, as I feel that would be a conflict of interest and journalistic integrity. Back to Hindenburg Research. Historically, when it's published a report, that report has been substantial and it's had evidence, and it can spell trouble for the company involved. Since it published its first report on Nikola just 2 days after the company announced its partnership with General Motors on EV and hydrogen fuel cell tech, Nikola's stock has fallen by a pretty large amount. Trevor Milton and Nikola have both got their lawyers involved, and Nikola is cooperating with both the US SEC and the US Department of Justice with preliminary investigations. These investigations are believed to be focusing on Nikola's various past insanely high valuations, despite they've not yet produced a vehicle, its recent reverse merger, which if you don't know what one of those is, you'll find an explanation here, and of course, alleged fraud. If you've been paying attention in this industry for a while, you'll know that for some time now there have been claims made against Nikola about the Nikola One, debuted in 2016. During that reveal event, Milton explained that while people would be able to get into the cab to see the truck's interior layout firsthand, there would be a chain preventing people from sitting in the driver's seat. The reason, he explained, Nikola didn't want people driving off in an expensive prototype that he joked cost more than a jet. Milton said, quote, "This thing fully functions and works, which is really incredible." Except, as multiple people alleged last year, including an anonymous source that we've personally talked to, the truck was not a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle. Instead, it was just a glider with a battery pack and basic propulsion. When Bloomberg ran a story on this, using Milton's own words in an interview given to the outlet to confirm that the truck wasn't operational, Milton and Nikola sued. There was no fuel cell stack installed, nor were there any motors or gears, and Milton claimed in the interview that this was for safety reasons. This allegation is reiterated by Hindenburg Research, but it was accompanied by an even more damning one, that a well-known video of a Nikola One driving down a road and stopping at a stop sign was in fact a video of a glider, that's a vehicle that is incapable of powering itself, rolling down a 2-mile stretch of the Mormon Trail in Utah, a stretch of road which has a fairly consistent 3% grade. That's enough to get a vehicle moving under gravity. This video has been included as B-roll for media ever since, which is why we have a copy of it, and it's been promoted by Nikola on its own social media account as being the Nikola One in motion. Some tweets talk about details of on-road testing. Those tweets were carefully written, though, so as to be arguable in a court of law. For a company seeking to set itself up as a leader in a segment, no, as a company that claims itself as a market leader, this is very disturbing. Hindenburg Research, though, has gone a lot further, sharing text messages from a member of the team at Nikola describing how the video was filmed. The report's debunking of this particular video is damning. How damning? Well, the group sent a researcher to the exact hill where the Nikola One video was filmed, put a car in neutral and let it glide down the road. And at the bottom of the hill, that car was going at 56 miles per hour. Because I want to wrap up this video in as tidy a bow as I can, I literally do not have time to go into each and every claim being made by Hindenburg Research against Nikola. Or rather, I do, but we'd be looking at a video instead of about 20 minutes, one that would be well over an hour in length. So instead, I'm going to throw in some of these other allegations in brief. There was a claim in 2019 from Milton that Nikola's headquarters were completely off the grid and 3.5 megawatts of solar panels were on its roof. Google's latest images from January 2020 show no solar panels exist on said building. Hindenburg claimed that the NZT off-road vehicle unveiled at Nikola World in 2019 was quietly scrapped within months of the reveal due to, quote, manufacturing challenges. And late last year, there was a claim from Nikola that it would unveil a, quote, game-changing battery cell at Nikola World 2020. The press release said, quote, we are talking about doubling the range of BEVs and hydrogen electric vehicles around the world. This is shortly before Nikola began to talk about acquiring the company responsible for that claimed breakthrough battery. But the company in question, ZapGo, also had its issues. Its president was indicted for tax fraud, and the company's claims were eventually outed as being completely false. Despite that conviction and that bombshell, in January 2020, Milton continued to talk about the game-changing technology as if it still existed, just 16 days before Nikola formally terminated the acquisition attempt of ZapGo. Nikola's claims about hydrogen production are also allegedly false, according to Hindenburg Research. In 2019, Nikola talked about its hydrogen fueling network and production of fuel. In July of this year, Milton said that there's no production in process right now, instead blaming permitting processes for the delay. And in July, Nikola said it had 5 Nikola tray trucks coming off the assembly line in Germany, but its manufacturing partner Bosch, the company providing electronics of the same, said that just wasn't the case. As to Milton himself, Hindenburg has unleashed many allegations against him, including ones related to Milton's former business endeavours, which include documented legal cases against Milton and his prior company D-Hybrid, a natural gas truck firm. These allegations surround misappropriation of capital for personal use, as well as allegedly telling investors that a contract D-Hybrid had secured was worth between 250 and 300 million, when its actual value was around 16 million. With D-Hybrid in trouble, a new company, D-Hybrid Systems, was formed, which kind of took off where the last company was before it got acquired. Suffice to say, there's a lot more I haven't covered. So if you are interested, read the report. Given that the SEC and the DOJ are involved, it certainly doesn't look good for Nikola. But let's not forget that both governmental agencies have also investigated a number of other automakers in the past and regularly do, including Tesla. That is their job, after all. Sometimes they find misdeeds, and sometimes they don't. In its press release rebutting the Hindenburg Research claims, Nikola answers some, but not all of the questions posed of it, and in some cases admits the allegations against it are true. And yesterday, various outlets ran a news item detailing that a JP Morgan analyst was defending Nikola following a meeting with its CFO. Its conclusion, in a note to investors, quote, the overall message was reassuring, no loss of momentum with existing partners, prospective customers, suppliers and employees. The note also said that its manufacturing partners have, quote, conducted extensive due diligence on the company. Which of course leads us to GM and its presser last week with Nikola, in which it announced that it would be supplying Nikola with hydrogen fuel cell stacks, battery packs and drivetrains for its vehicles, as well as in fact building the Nikola Badger pickup truck in both fuel cell and battery variants in exchange for a stake in Nikola. Many are asking what GM gets out of this, especially given some of the allegations flying around. After this news, I'm going to be honest, it's tough to say, but if we go back, it does start to make sense. Last week's deal was pretty one-sided in GM's favour. GM agreed to invest up to $700 million to expand its production facilities in order to make the Nikola Badger truck, which would leverage its Ultium battery technology and drivetrains, as well as a hydrogen fuel cell technology it's been working with Honda to make ready for serial mass production. And GM already has the technology Nikola needs. It just needs to get the production facilities ready. On a scale of investment from major automakers, $700 million is frankly pocket change. And in exchange for this, Nikola agreed to pay GM cost plus whatever markup GM has negotiated to produce the Nikola Badgers for Nikola. The agreement also sees GM get $2 billion worth of Nikola stock, which is equivalent to about 11% ownership. Admittedly, if there's a true Hindenburg moment with Nikola and the stock dies a fiery death, then the whole deal is off. But if Nikola survives this, then there are still big benefits from GM. Most of them revolve around the economies of scale that producing more vehicles and drivetrains bring about. GM gets to bring down the cost of producing its own vehicles for its customers without having to add the extra money to the sticker price. Or if you prefer to look at it another way, it could get to recoup its research and development costs more quickly by selling its technology to another company. And then there's the whole investing in a startup thing, which is still considered cool and edgy, and it helps GM to prove to investors that it is interested in future fuel technologies. All of the gain without any of the risk if it goes wrong. Well, if it does go wrong, GM will just wash its corporate hands and move on to the next startup. What do I personally think will happen? Honestly, I'm not sure. Of all of the companies I've covered, I will say that Nikola's events have always been light on talking tech and more about making a sale and an appearance. And when I encounter a company that's not super willing to talk about tech, I do start to wonder. That's it for today's video. As always, thanks to the folks on my right for being our $15 to $49 a month Patreon supporters. Special thanks to our $50 a month Patreon supporters John Lyons, Regine Fellows and Jeffrey Songster. And our deepest gratitude to our $100 a month Patreon supporters Marcel Ward, Reggie Watts, JP Fagerback and Sean Udea. You can join each and every one of those Patreon supporters and become one yourself by following the links below. You'll also find links below to send us a donation through Ko-fi or Bitcoin. There's also a link for our free Discord server, so sign into Discord and come and join in the fun. And don't forget to check out our new t-shirts and our other merch in our new Redbubble store, which is available just in time for Halloween. After the names have scrolled, you'll see a suggestion for a new video, so please consider watching it if you haven't. And I will be back very soon. Thanks for joining me, and as always, keep evolving.